The great alien hall was silent. Only the sound of boots on the marble floor echoed as Commander Ryan Hale walked forward. The human soldier's uniform looked almost plain among the shining silver armor and flowing silk robes of the alien nobles. Above him, banners of the alien empire hung from the high ceiling, each one showing the royal crested golden sun over a sea of black dot. He had come here expecting a medal. Instead, he was told he would receive a gift. The alien council stood in a half-circle, their eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. At the center sat the King of Zorath, tall and cold, his crown made of twisted crystal. His deep voice carried. Across the chamber, Commander Ryan Hale, the king said, "For your service in ending the war on the eastern colonies, for saving thousands of Zorothian lives, we offer you a reward." From the side door, footsteps approached. Chains rattled. Ryan turned his head on, froze. A woman stepped into the hall. Her wrists were bound with thin golden cuffs. Her long hair fell over her face, hiding her eyes. Her gown, once royal blue, was worn and frayed. She walked slowly, like every step cost her strength. "This," the king said, "is Princess Lyra, daughter of my late brother. She has no future in our royal line. You may take her as your property, a gift for your loyalty." A murmur spread through the alien nobles. Some smirked. Others whispered words Ryan couldn't understand, though the tone was clear mockery. "Why no future?" Ryan asked quietly. "She is infertile," the king said without hesitation. "She cannot give heirs. She is of no value to us." Lyra kept her eyes on the floor. She did not protest. She did not cry. She only stood, silent, as if she had heard these words too many times before. Ryan's jaw tightened. In the war, he had seen prisoners treated like tools. He had freed many of them. Now, here in the heart of the alien empire, he was being offered a person like a piece of furniture. He walked toward her. The guards moved aside, expecting him to grab her chain. But Ryan didn't. Instead, he gently took her hand. Her fingers were cold. She flinched, as if she thought he would strike her. "It's all right," he said softly. The hall went silent again. Even the nobles stopped whispering. No human had ever touched a royal alien like this, not one given as a gift. The king's golden eyes narrowed. "Do you accept?" the king asked. Ryan met his gaze. "Yes, but she's not my property." A ripple of shock passed through the crowd. The words sounded strange here, in a court where power was measured by ownership. Lyra glanced up for the first time. Her eyes were the color of storm clouds. There was surprise in them, and something else, a spark. The king gave a thin smile. "Very well, human. Take her. But remember, gifts can be taken back." Outside the palace, the sky was a deep violet. Twin moons hung low, casting pale light over the city. Ryan led Lyra through the busy streets toward the human quarters. The alien citizens stared, some with disgust, others with curiosity. Lyra stayed quiet. She moved as if expecting someone to grab her at any moment. "You don't have to be afraid." Ryan said after a while. She shook her head. "You don't understand. In Zorath, a gift is never free. The king gave me to you for a reason." Ryan glanced at her. "Maybe. But whatever reason, he had, it's his problem now, not yours." For a moment, she almost smiled. They reached the human compound, a set of metal buildings guarded by soldiers. Inside, Ryan gave her a small room. It wasn't much, but it was warm and clean. "There's food in the kitchen," he said. "Clothes in the closet. You can lock the door if you want." She looked at him, confusion in her eyes. "You're not going to order me?" "No," Ryan said simply. "You're free here." She stood still for a moment, as if testing whether the air in this place was truly safe to breathe. Then she stepped inside the room and closed the door softly. Ryan turned away, but his mind was already full of questions. Why would the king give away a princess, even if she was considered barren? Why make such a public show of it? And why, when she looked at him, did it feel like there was more to her than anyone here understood? That night, as the moons rose higher, Ryan sat by his window, staring at the alien city beyond the walls. Somewhere out there, he knew the king was watching. The gift had not been given in kindness. He had the strange feeling that whatever game the alien ruler was playing had only just begun, and Princess Lyra was the key. The morning light slipped through the blinds of the human compound, painting faint golden stripes on the floor. Princess Lyra woke up slowly, unsure for a moment where she was. For years, she had opened her eyes to the cold stone walls of the Zorth Royal Prison Wing. The first thing she usually heard was the heavy sound of guards changing shifts. But here, it was different. She heard no chains, no marching boots. Only the low hum of heating systems and the distant murmur of human voices in the courtyard. She sat up in the small bed. It was plain, but softer than anything she had slept on in years. Beside it, there was a folded blanket, thick and warm. She touched it as if afraid it might vanish. Outside, Commander Ryan Hale was already awake, checking supply logs with one of his officers. His mind, however, kept drifting back to the woman in the small room down the hall. He didn't understand why the king had given her away. It didn't feel like generosity. It felt like a move in a game Ryan didn't yet know the rules of. When the reports were done, carried a tray of food to her room: bread, fresh fruit, and a hot drink that smelled faintly of spice. When he knocked, there was a pause before the door opened a crack. Her eyes appeared first, cautious but curious. "I brought breakfast," Ryan said. She hesitated, then opened the door wider. She was still in the same gown from yesterday, though her hair was now combed. The golden cuffs on her wrists were gone. He had removed them the night before. He set the tray down on the small table. "It's not royal feast food," he said. "But it's warm." Lyra walked over slowly. She didn't sit right away. She stood, looking at the plate, as if waiting for someone to tell her the rules. "You can eat," Ryan said gently. "No one's going to take it away." She sat down and took a small bite of bread. She chewed carefully, like someone used to eating with caution. "This is good," she said quietly. After a few minutes of silence, she looked up. "Why are you being kind to me?" Ryan shrugged. "Why not?" "Because I am nothing to you. To my people, I am even less. I was given to you as an insult, Commander. A way to mock you without breaking the treaty." Ryan leaned against the wall. "Maybe that's what they wanted, but they don't get to decide what you are." Her lips parted slightly, as if she wanted to reply, but no words came. She simply lowered her eyes again, but this time her hands weren't trembling. Later that day, Ryan showed her around the compound. Human soldiers nodded as they passed. Most tried to hide their surprise at seeing an alien princess walking beside their commander. In the courtyard, she paused. The air smelled faintly of burning fuel from the ship hangars, but there was also the crisp scent of the alien flowers Ryan had planted near the fence. "You grow these?" she asked. Ryan smiled a little, took seeds from one of the colony worlds. Didn't expect them to survive here, but they did. "They are from the southern forests of Zorth," Lyra said, touching a pale blue petal. "They only bloom when the soil is safe. If the ground is poisoned, they die." He looked at her for a long moment. "Then it seems we're doing something, right?" Days passed. Slowly, Lyra began to move through the compound without fear. She explored the small library, spent hours by the courtyard flowers, and sometimes sat in the workshop, watching Ryan repair old tools. One evening, she found Him working late, fixing a cracked water pipe. You do all this yourself? She asked. Most of it, Ryan replied. Humans can't always wait for help. We fix what we can. She tilted her head. On Zorath, someone like you would have servants for such work. Ryan chuckled. On Zorath, someone like me, probably, wouldn't survive a week. For the first time, she laughed a soft, genuine sound. It startled him. He realized he had never heard her laugh before. But not everyone welcomed her. In the market district, whispers began. Some humans feared the alien woman would bring trouble. Some aliens saw her walking freely and considered it a disgrace. Ryan noticed the stares when they went into the city for supplies. Lyra noticed too, but she didn't shrink away. One merchant muttered, "That's the barren one," in a language Ryan barely understood. Lyra looked the man in the eye and said in his tongue, "Better barren than poisoned with hate." The merchant went pale. Ryan had to hide a grin. That night, back at the compound, Lyra sat by the window of her room. The twin moons cast silver light on her face. She remembered the king's words, the cold judgment in his eyes. Infertile, no value. But here, in this strange human place, she was beginning to feel something she had not felt in years, like she mattered. She didn't yet know that far away. In the alien palace, reports of her new life were already reaching the king. And each report made him more uneasy because, for the first time in years, Princess Lyra was smiling. The palace of Zorath was a fortress of crystal and steel, rising above the city like a frozen wave. Inside its high walls, shadows stretched across the marble floors as the king sat on his throne. Reading the latest intelligence reports, he had been expecting dull, routine updates. Instead, the first line made his golden eyes narrow. Princess Lyra, now in the custody of the human commander Ryan Hale, is in good health. She walks freely among humans. She shows signs of happiness. The king read it again, as if the words might change. Happiness. The barren girl. It was impossible. She had been a political deadweight for years, reminder of a failed royal bloodline. He had given her away to humiliate the human commander, not rehabilitate her. Across the throne room, Lord Varric, his chief advisor, approached slowly. "My king, you seem troubled." The king's voice was cold. "The reports say she is well fed. She speaks. She even smiles." She was not supposed to smile. Varric tilted his head. "Forgive me, sire, but why does it matter? She is still unable to give heirs. She remains no threat to your rule." The king's fingers tapped the armrest. Perhaps, but weakness, when healed, can turn into strength. And sometimes, strength finds a way to make itself an heir. Varric hesitated. "You think the human may try?" The king cut him off. With a sharp wave of his hand. "I think humans are unpredictable. And I think my late brother's blood still runs in that girl's veins. If she finds a way to pass it on, the child could claim my throne." In the lower halls of the palace, the guards were talking too. Servants carried whispers like drifting smoke. How the barren princess now walked without fear. How her eyes shone brighter. How she seemed alive again. One old servant told another, "It's strange. I saw her once in the gardens as a child. She had that same spark. Then, after they declared her barren, it vanished. Now, they say it's returning." The other servant shushed him. But the thought stayed in both their minds. The king sent for Captain Dreth, commander of his intelligence network. Dreth was a tall alien with silver skin and a face like carved stone. "You will send watchers to the human compound," the king ordered. "No uniforms, no insignia. I want to know what the girl does, who she speaks to, what she eats, when she sleeps. And if there is any sign that she is with child, you will report to me instantly." Dreth bowed, and the human commander. The king's eyes darkened. If he tries to hide her from me, remind him that gifts can be taken back. Far from the palace, in the human compound, Ryan was unaware of the net beginning to close. He was in the courtyard with Lyra, showing her how to plant a row of seeds in the soft soil. You don't need to dig too deep, he told her. The roots need to breathe. She knelt in the dirt, her hair falling over her shoulder. In the royal gardens, there were workers for this, she said. But I think I like doing it myself. Ryan smiled faintly. Then you're already more human than most humans I know. She looked up at him with a small smile. Is that a compliment? Maybe, he said. What neither of them saw was the shadow on the rooftop across the street. One of Dreth's agents lay flat against the tiles, watching through a small scope. Every word, every gesture was recorded. Later, in a hidden basement in the alien sector, the agent reported to Dreth. She laughs with him, the agent said. She works beside him. She looks at him as if she trusts him. Dreth's expression didn't change, but his tone was sharp. Trust is dangerous. Keep watching. If she starts to grow ill, if she changes her eating patterns, I want to. No. Back in the palace, Varric returned to the throne room. Sire, may I speak freely? The king gave a short nod. Would it not be simpler to remove her now, before any risk grows? The king's gaze hardened. No. Removing her now would cause questions. The humans would demand answers, and I will not give them cause for rebellion. Varric frowned. Then what is your plan? The king's smile was thin and cold. If she becomes a threat, I will not need to remove her. The human will be blamed, and the humans will destroy him themselves. That night, as the palace lights dimmed and the city outside fell into darkness, the king stood at his window. The twin moons reflected in his eyes, making them look like molten gold. She thinks she has escaped me, he whispered to himself. But no one escapes the crown. And somewhere far away, in a small room lit only by the soft glow of moonlight, Princess Lyra was looking out of her own window, feeling, without knowing why, that a shadow had just reached for her. The sun was just rising over the human compound, painting the sky with pale orange light. Commander Ryan Hale was already awake, sorting supply crates in the storage room. Princess Lyra was in the courtyard, watering the flower beds she had planted with him weeks ago. Life had begun to feel steady, not perfect, not safe, but steady. That morning, Ryan noticed something. Lyra moved slower than usual. She paused often, putting a hand to her forehead as if dizzy. You all right? He asked when she came inside. I'm fine, she said quickly, but her voice was softer, distracted. Just a little tired. Ryan didn't press. Everyone had tired days. But over the next week, he saw more signs. She would skip meals, rest longer in the afternoons, and her skin seemed to glow faintly in the evenings. Finally, he decided to call in Dr. Ilara Voss, the colony's medical officer. Ilara was known for her strict professionalism and her dislike of surprises. When Ilara arrived, Lyra hesitated to let her examine her. Old instincts told her that medical visits in the palace never ended well. But Ryan promised, she's here to help, not hurt. In the small infirmary room, Ilara ran a series of scans. Her brow furrowed as the results came in. This is unexpected, Ilara murmured. Ryan's voice sharpened. What is it? Ilara turned to Lyra. You're pregnant? The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. Lyra's eyes widened, disbelief flooding her face. That's not possible. The king's physicians told me. She stopped, her voice shaking. They told me I could never have a child. Ryan stood frozen. He knew enough about Zorthian politics to understand what this meant. A royal heir, half human, half Zorthian, would shake the empire to its core. Alara, oblivious to the full political weight, continued from the readings. It's early, only a few weeks. But the child is healthy, strong even. She paused. Ryan, if what you've told me about her condition is true, someone lied to her. Lyra's hands trembled. The king lied, she whispered. He called me barren, useless, and I believed him. Ryan's mind raced, which means he never wanted you to have a child. And if he finds out, Lyra finished the thought, he will take the child, or kill it. Word of such things traveled fast, even without intention. A careless remark in the market, a slip from a medic's assistant. And soon, in the alien capital, a sealed message was placed before the king. He broke the seal, read the words, and felt a cold fury spread through him. The princess carries a child. Father, unknown, rumored human. Possible heir with mixed bloodline. The king crushed the paper in his fist. Summon Dreth, he ordered. When the intelligence captain entered, the king's voice was a blade. Bring her to me, quietly, if possible. If not, remove her before the child draws its first breath. Dreth bowed, and the human. The king's smile was slow and dangerous. Make sure he understands what happens to those who steal from the crown. Back at the compound, Lyra sat in her room, her hands on her stomach. Her thoughts were tangled, fear, wonder, disbelief. Ryan stepped in quietly. We have to plan, he said. If the king knows, he'll send people. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Do you want this child? Ryan didn't hesitate. If it's ours, it's worth protecting, no matter what. For a moment, she looked at him with something like hope. Then, I'll fight too. That night, rain began to fall over the colony. In the shadows near the outer wall, two cloaked figures watched the compound. They were Dreth's agents, waiting for the right moment to strike. Inside, Ryan made quiet arrangements, supplies packed. A transport ship checked for fuel, trusted allies warned. He knew the king's patience was a mask, and now the mask would be gone far away. In the palace, the king stood before the window, watching lightning split the clouds. A barren girl, he muttered, now carrying the one thing that could destroy me. His hands tightened on the railing. The game had changed, and this time he would play to win no matter the cost. The throne room of Zoreth was silent, except for the echo of the king's footsteps. He paced in slow, deliberate strides, the golden hem of his robe dragging across the polished floor. His advisors stood at a safe distance, none daring to speak first. Finally, the king stopped. His voice was low but sharp, each word carrying the weight of command. She carries a child, he said. A child with my brother's royal blood, and the blood of a human. No one moved. Even Lord Varric, usually bold in council, kept his eyes on the floor. The king's golden gaze swept across them. This is not just an insult. This is a challenge to my rule. That child, if it survives, will be claimed as heir by every fool who wishes to see me fall. Varric cleared his throat. Shall we send an envoy, sire? Perhaps a demand for the child to be brought to you? The king's expression hardened. No. Envoys are for politics. This is war. He turned to Captain Dreth, whose silver skin seemed to reflect the throne room's cold light. You will lead the mission yourself, the king ordered. Bring her to me alive if possible, but if you cannot, end her life and the life of the child. Dreth bowed deeply. And the human commander. The king's lips curved into something like a smile. Kill him. Slowly, that night, Dreth assembled a team of the Empire's most skilled hunters, silent, fast, and loyal only to the crown. They were armed not with loud weapons, but with tools for quiet kills, shock blades, suppression nets, and poison needles. Their orders were clear. There would be no negotiation. Far from the palace, the human compound was calm on the surface. But inside, Ryan could feel the change in the air like. The moments before a storm, a trusted soldier, Sergeant Keller, came to him with urgent news. "Sir, we've intercepted a comm signal. Encrypted, but from the palace network. Something about retrieval orders." Ryan's stomach tightened. "They're coming." He went to Lyra's quarters. She was sitting by the small heater, her hands resting on her stomach. When she saw his face, she knew. "How long do we have?" she asked. "Not long enough," Ryan replied. "We need to leave tonight." Her voice was steady, but her eyes betrayed fear. "Where can we go?" "The king's reach is long." Ryan crouched down in front of her. "There are places the king's reach doesn't matter. The outer territories, frontier worlds, where Zorth's law is just a rumor." She hesitated, then nodded. "If you think we can make it." By nightfall, the compound was in motion. Ryan's closest soldiers prepared a small cargo ship in the hangar. Supplies were loaded, weapons checked, routes plotted, but the enemy moved faster as the ship's engines warmed. The perimeter alarm screamed. "Incoming hostiles." Keller shouted over the comms. "They're inside the outer gate." Ryan grabbed his rifle. "Move Lyra to the ship." "Go." The first shadow leaped over the courtyard wall tall, armored eyes glowing faint red in the darkness. More followed, silent as predators. They struck with precision, cutting down guards before alarms could fully sound. Ryan met them head-on, his rifle spitting bursts of fire. One hunter fell, but another slipped past him, heading straight for the hangar. Keller. Inside, Lyra stood behind Keller, who fired at anything that moved. Her heart pounded in her chest. She remembered the palace guards, how their footsteps had haunted her dreams. Now those footsteps were here again. In the chaos, Ryan fought his way back to her. He shot down a hunter, trying to drag her away with a suppression net. "We're out of time," he shouted. "Oh, nah." They sprinted up the ramp as Keller sealed the hatch. The cargo ship's engines roared to life, lifting them into the rain-filled night sky. Through the rear viewport, Ryan saw the compound shrinking below and the figures of Dreths, hunters standing in the courtyard, watching them rise. But the king's wrath was not so easily escaped. As the ship cleared the atmosphere, a Zorathian cruiser uncloaked ahead. Of them, its weapons powering up. Ryan's hands tightened on the controls. "Hold on," he told Lyra, diving the ship into a dangerous spin toward the planet's shadow side. Behind them, the cruiser gave chase. The hunt had begun. The stars streaked past as Commander Ryan Hale pushed the cargo ship's engines to their limit. Behind them, the Zorathian cruiser was a silver predator in the dark, its weapon systems glowing faintly. Inside the cramped cockpit, Princess Lyra clutched the harness straps. "They won't stop," she said, her voice steady, but her eyes sharp with fear. "I know," Ryan replied, scanning the nav charts. "But we can make it to the border sectors before they close the net." He angled the ship toward a narrow path between two asteroid fields. It was risky to narrow for most ships to try, but Ryan was betting on one thing. The cruiser's size would work against it. In the palace, Captain Dreth watched the chase on a holographic display. His hunters had already deployed forward. "Teams to intercept. Push them toward the desert world of Moran," Dreth ordered. "It has no official port, no human presence. Once they land, there will be no witnesses." Ryan didn't know about Miran yet. He was focused on survival. The asteroids loomed ahead, their jagged shadows cutting across the starlight. The ship shuddered as he threaded the path, scraping past stone walls older than most civilizations. The cruiser fired, but the shots struck rock instead of metal. By the time it cleared the field, Ryan and Lyra were gone already, slipping into hyperspace toward the next system. They emerged hours later above Varela, a trade world of towering spires and endless markets. The plan was simple: refuel, buy supplies, and disappear before anyone spotted them. But hunters were already here as they moved through the market's crowded streets. Ryan's instinct screamed. Too many eyes were following them. Too many strangers, with the same stillness in their posture-trained killers. "Keep walking," he murmured to Lyra. "Don't look back." They ducked into a side alley, but two hunters blocked the exit. Ryan's hand went to his sidearm. One hunter spoke in the Zorathian tongue, his voice like metal scraping stone. "The king wants his property returned." "She's not property," Ryan said. Dan fired. The fight was fast and brutal. Blades flashed, energy bolts hissed through the air. Lyra grabbed a dropped stun baton and struck one attacker in the side, giving Ryan the opening to finish the fight. They didn't stay to see if the hunters were dead. By the time the market guards arrived, Ryan and Lyra were already airborne again. Their next stop was Nether, a barren moon with thin air and endless red deserts. Ryan had friends here, human smugglers who owed him favors in a hidden canyon. They found Jace Wren, a pilot with a crooked grin and a ship that looked like it had been held together with hope and scrap metal. "Ryan Hale," Jace said, shaking his head. "You always find trouble. And now you've brought royalty into my canyon." "She's not here for politics," Ryan replied. "We need a safe route to the frontier." Jace scratched his chin. "Frontier's a mess right now, pirates, rebels, and no law worth trusting. But I know a way through. It'll cost you." Ryan handed him a small data chip. "This should cover it." Jace looked at the chip, then at Ryan. "It's not the credits I'm worried about. It's the hunters. They're using new tech trackers keyed to your DNA." Ryan glanced at Lyra. "Then we move before they can use it." But Dreth was closing in. His network of informants reported every move. Every whispered rumor of a human with a royal alien woman. By the time Ryan and Lyra left Nather Dreth's forward teams had them boxed in. The trap was sprung above the abandoned station RN7, a relic from the old mining wars. As Ryan's ship passed, power surged in the station's dormant weapons. Energy nets flared to life, cutting off escape routes. Ryan cursed under his breath. "Hold tight." He swung the ship low, skimming the station's skeletal arms. Hunters on Speedcraft gave chase, their engines screaming. Lyra, strapped into the co-pilot seat, fired the rear cannons, hitting one pursuer and sending his craft spinning into debris. They escaped, but barely. The ship's hull was scorched, and one engine sputtered. Ryan set a course for the outer verge, the last band of wild space before the unknown. Lyra sat quietly for a while, then spoke. "You risked everything for me today. You could have left me in Varela, or Nether, but you didn't." Ryan glanced at her. Leaving you was never an option. For the first time since they fled the palace, she allowed herself a small, true smile. "Then we'll survive, both of us, and the child." In the palace, Dreth stood before the king. "They've gone to the verge. We'll follow, but out. There, the rules are different." The king's eyes burned like molten gold. "Then, break the rules. Bring me my blood." The outer verge was a place of lawless skies and forgotten worlds where no empire claimed control. It was here that Commander Ryan Hale and Princess Lyra finally set their damaged ship down in a quiet moon with blue forests and mist-covered valleys for the first time in weeks. The silence wasn't broken by alarms or weapons fire. Ryan stood at the edge of the landing field, scanning the tree line. "We can't stay long," he told Lyra. "If Dreth's hunters made it this far, they'll keep coming until one of us is dead." Lyra rested a hand on her stomach. Then we end this here. No more running. They didn't have to wait long. At dawn, the sound of engines rolled through the mist. Black shapes appeared between the trees. Dreth's hunters, moving with precise, deadly steps. And at their center, walking calmly, as if the forest belonged to him, was Captain Dreth himself. Ryan stepped forward, rifle in hand. This ends. Today, Dreth. It does, Dreth replied, his silver face unreadable. The king sends his regards. Surrender the princess, and I'll make your death quick. Lyra stepped up beside Ryan. Tell the king he's already lost. The child he feared is alive, and will be born free. For the first time, Dreth's expression shifted just slightly. Then his hand snapped up, signaling the attack. The forest erupted in fire. Energy bolts cut through the mist, flashing past Ryan's head. He dropped to one knee, firing back in quick bursts. Hunters fell, but more closed in from the sides. Lyra ducked behind a moss-covered stone, her heart pounding. She grabbed a dropped sidearm and fired at a shadow moving too close. The shot hit true, sending the hunter sprawling. Ryan fought like a man with nothing left to lose. He moved fast, changing cover, keeping Dreth's forces from surrounding them. But Dreth himself was still advancing, calm and relentless, when the last hunter fell between them. Dreth finally drew his blade, a curved weapon that shimmered with deadly light. You fought well, human, Dreth said. But loyalty to the king demands your end. Ryan didn't answer. He stepped forward, meeting Dreth's first strike with the edge of his rifle, then swinging hard to knock the weapon aside. The fight was close and brutal, two warriors in the wet earth, trading blows with precision. Finally, Ryan drove Dreth back against a tree, disarming him with a twist. The blade clattered to the ground. Walk away, Ryan said through gritted teeth. Tell your king you failed. Dreth's golden eyes narrowed. Failure is death. He lunged for a hidden dagger, but before he could strike, a blast rang out. Lyra stood behind him, the sidearm still smoking. Dreth froze, then collapsed. Into the moss, silence fell over the forest. Only the wind and the trees remained. Ryan turned to Lyra, breathing hard. You didn't have to. Yes, I did, she interrupted. We end this together. He didn't argue. Hours later, they stood by the ship, ready to leave the verge. The hunters were gone. Dreth was gone. But the king's shadow still stretched across the stars. What happens when he sends more? Lyra asked quietly. Ryan looked at her, had the determination in her eyes. Then we make sure we're ready. We build allies. We make the galaxy see the truth. And the child? She asked. He smiled faintly. The child will have more than a name. They'll have two worlds behind them. Months passed. Word began to spread across both human and alien space. The barren princess was not barren. She lived, carrying an air of royal blood and human spirit. On distant worlds, people whispered of what that meant: an end to old hatred, a bridge between species. In the palace, the king heard these whispers and felt his grip on power slip. Every attempt to send hunters failed. Every ally he bribed hesitated, afraid of the people's growing hope. On a quiet morning in a frontier settlement, Ryan stood outside a small home, watching the sunrise. Lyra stepped out to join him, holding a newborn wrapped in a soft blanket. The baby's eyes opened, one the stormy gray of Lyra's people, the other the warm brown of Ryan's. What will we name them? Ryan asked. Lyra smiled. Something that means unity. He nodded. Then they'll be the start of it. Far away, the king sat alone in his throne room, staring at the empty space where his banners hung. He could not touch them now, not without turning the galaxy against him. The heir of two worlds had been born. And the future, for the first time in a long time, did not belong to him.